I know what you want me to say. I know you want me to do the whole in the book thing. Not today. Instead, draw your attention to the graceful swan-like flop that is the picture in front of you. Oh, it was icy cold, ladies and gents. Icy cold, but quite invigorating. All right, enough fooling around. Let's get to some ethical considerations on tap for tonight. So, in this lecture, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about your moral and ethical obligations when you're using human subjects during your particular research projects. There is going to be a webinar attached to this, so it won't only be these few slides, but it'll also be setting you up or kind of getting you ready for that webinar. I don't make it a habit to apologize very often for that which I present to my classes at Brooklyn College, or at the DOE for that matter, but I am going to give you a little apology here. The webinar is a little bit long. It's a little bit tedious. There's just no way around it. It's a departmental requirement, and it's very much CYA. For those of you that don't know the acronym CYA, it stands for Cover Your Assets. That's right. Very good. So, hands tied, what are we going to do? Let's plow through it. I have a little bit more, actually a lot more information about the webinar, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. Probably should have mentioned this on the last slide, but I'll say it right here. I cannot and will not give you a grade for the course without completing the webinar and the completion certificate that comes along with it. So please bear that in mind as we go through it. With that said, let's talk about some ethical considerations. When you think about it, even though this lecture is very much CYA based, there are and there should be a set of ethical considerations and rules that a researcher can and cannot do when you're collecting data from human subjects. And make no mistake about it, you will be collecting data from your classes, from your schools, so you will be dealing with fellow humans, even though they are children. Those ethical considerations and those ethical rules very much bind us as researchers. So the first ethical consideration that I'd like to present to you tonight is the idea of informed consent. Let's go over some of these bullet points, and I am going to be reading just a little bit because I have to make sure that I say it correctly and in the appropriate way. So first off, all participants, whether they're kids, whether they're parents, whether they're teachers, other teachers, they have to be able to participate and even remove themselves, recluse themselves from your data collection without fear of punishment or any kind of harm. Along that note, if someone does not give you consent and you have not received the permission to do so, you cannot collect any data from those individuals that have chosen not to be a part of your study. As you give students their informed consent and you let them know that they are going to be, quote unquote, helping you out with your research projects, you have to kind of let them know exactly what it is that you're going to be looking for. It doesn't have to be to the minute detail, and it could be a sentence or two. But your explicit intentions should be very, very clear to the people that you're collecting data from. If for some reason you collect data outside of the scope of what it is that you intend to do, that data should be considered null and void and cannot be used for your thesis. Let's go over some examples. Okay, so this should make things a little bit more clear for you because they're in more layman's terms instead of like the last slide, which I think I downloaded from a website that was written by a lawyer. At least it seemed that way. So let's go through some real life examples here. Let's say now you're collecting behavioral data, right? You're collecting data. You want to see how your intervention is going to work with behaviors. The period ends, and you continue to collect data. You did not tell those students that you were collecting data during transition periods or as they were walking through the hall. You cannot use that data, or you should not use that data. A student teacher. This one's actually a real one. A student teacher was working with a group of students, and the researcher kind of leaned over the student teacher's shoulder and started taking data, even though the student teacher was not informed that there was a research project going on. Nope, you cannot do that. Now, if you let that student teacher know, yep, thumbs up. You can do that. But without her knowing, or without him knowing, you cannot collect that data. This one's also a real one. A cooperating teacher ICT partnership. They weren't the best of friends to begin with, but once the cooperating teacher realized that there was additional work that this research was asking of them, they wanted to bow out. They were like, oh, I don't need to do this, and I don't even like you all that much. Can they withdraw? Absolutely, they can withdraw, and you can have not much to kind of say about it. There's one gray area with informed consent, and that is in the qualitative world. Because remember, in the qualitative data collection world, you're collecting experiences, and you're trying to get a richness of what is happening inside that classroom. Even in this kind of like free form type of data collection, there are still limitations as to what you can and cannot do. And if you stray too far, you are breaking that ethical consideration. Let's look at the next one. The next ethical consideration is going to be your participants' right to anonymity. And that often becomes very important in later sections of your thesis as you're actually putting your data into a narrative. Many times the temptation is that you want to use the names of the students as you're reporting their, let's say, qualitative data. And their right to anonymity says that you are not allowed to use their real names. In fact, I'm personally, as the person evaluating your work, I'm going to ask that at no point do you let me know not only who the students are, but also the school that you're collecting the data is in. So that way it kind of becomes like a very anonymous type of research project. And part of that is not just concealing it from me, but also concealing it from teachers and other people in the hallway that don't necessarily need to know this particular business. The last data point there, that sometimes comes up because you do keep old type of data collection stuff kind of hanging around. Whatever you're not going to be using for your classroom and as part of your typical classroom data, whatever doesn't fall under that category, just go ahead and recycle it. No sense in kind of keeping that lying around. That is the right to anonymity. This is actually a good one, good ethical consideration, and that's the idea of confidentiality. Got stuck there a little bit, too many syllables. Confidentiality. Let me sum it up in one colloquial sentence. That is, whatever happens in your research stays in your research. Everyone that is a part of it has the right to have their data remain confidential. The only if is that in that second bullet point, and that is if it's within the law. And that is because you are still a court-mandated reporter. So as long as you're not implicating anybody and you're staying within the law, then you're bound by those confidentiality laws. Let's take a look at a couple of quick examples because this might be a little bit important. So these examples all actually happened during a Brooklyn College semester in the past in my class. That's why I bring them up, because they were sticky situations that have come up in the past. So I figure I share them with you. First one, you'd like to share your observations during parent-teacher conference. probably a bad idea. And the reason for that was at the time that the parent felt that the researcher or the student, the teacher, didn't reach out to parents. And by law, you do not have to reach out to parents because the type of research that we're doing is using techniques that you would use anyway in a regular DOE class. So I don't know. Let's say you read about something in your curriculum guide, and you want to try it on Monday for the first time, not as part of your research, just as a teacher. You're not going to reach out to the parent to ask them permission. But once the teacher brought up the fact that research was being done during that parent-teacher conference, it just opened up the can, and there it went. So you can certainly mention the data that was collected, but make it that it was a part of the class and not necessarily a part of your research. The second one was a don't be implicated one, and that is that the parents share with you during the research process. The parents share with you that they smoke. I think it's pronounced marijuana, correct? Yes, I think that's the way it says. That they smoke marijuana on a regular basis in the house. So that would be an example of a scenario where you don't need to implicate them and you don't need to implicate yourself. That's because even though you are a court-mandated reporter, like at the bottom one, it doesn't implicate that student. It only implicates the parents. So keep that to yourself. That's their business. The last one, though, did lead to kind of a messy situation, but it was something that had to be done. During the research process, the parent told the teacher, in this case the researcher, that she gives her son a shot of Hennessy. She called it nip, right? A little shot of Hennessy in order to sleep. Sorry, but you can't give a 10-year-old a shot of liquor, no matter how well it makes them sleep. So in this case, because that was within the law, that teacher, that student of mine, was a court-mandated reporter, and we did have to report the incidents. These happen very, very rarely. I mean, it's usually our research is usually vanilla, but just in case it gets a little bit tricky, at least you have some examples of things that you should do and things that you should not do. This is an interesting one because the use of deception in research is actually a very long established practice, and for many, many years, probably even to this day, there's still an element of deception that goes into some types of research. The cool thing is that it's not going to be for your research. Let's do a couple of quick examples here. I guess the easiest one would be that you're observing one aspect of the class. Kind of touched upon it a couple slides ago. Let's say you walk into another teacher's class and you tell the teacher, informed consent, right? I'm going to be observing the way that these students react to her mini lesson, but really you're deceiving her, and you want to see what her what her timing is like in what it is that she's presenting to the students. No, just tell her the truth. Look, this is what I'm here to observe. If you're taping something, if you're recording something, I had suggested recording an interview in a focus group back in the lecture where we talked about qualitative measurement tools. You can do that, but it has to be with consent. To record it without consent is a big no-no. The last one, again, under the qualitative measurement tools, collecting artifacts. You can't collect an artifact, even if it's from one of your students, if they don't give you their permission. It's called theft. So really easy, really simple to get around. Hey, Dave, would it be okay if I took your writing on demand piece in order to grade it for my research project? Yeah, good. Thank you very much. And that's it. Then it's not theft. You've just taken the artifact and you've asked their permission. All right. That is it as far as your ethical considerations. Not too bad. Less than 15 minutes long. So it should be fairly quick here for you to listen to the previous slides. I'm going to transition to the webinar and show you how to sign up for that. All right, we're going to make this ultra fast here. www.cityprogram.org. Go ahead and type that into your favorite browser. And you're going to be taking the Human and Subjects Research Training course. It is for both Brooklyn College and New York State. So it's probably something that you should kind of keep handy just in case the opportunity to have it comes back up. I know I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. I might even say it one more time after this. I cannot and will not give you a grade for this course without the document that your city program will produce at the end. Despite my sincerest efforts, I couldn't find a way to put a recording, like a video recording, inside of a video recording. What I wanted to do was I wanted to record my screen as I went through this process, so you would have it like kind of in video form. But as it turns out, Elon Musk hasn't gotten to that yet. I wish he would already, because it would make my life a lot easier. This is what your city program homepage is going to look like. Please take special note of the red box in the top right hand corner that says register. Go ahead, click on that, and you will get this. By the way, if there's any steps here that for some reason I missed their screenshot, it's probably because it should be fairly clear what you're supposed to do. So like, let's say, for example, I don't know if I have a slide on your, like, where to put your name and your address and your phone number and all that. I'll take that for granted that you'll know how to do that type of stuff here. The screenshots that I did take were the parts that might have a little bit of ambiguity to them. So hopefully it stays. Hopefully this comes across fairly clearly. The first part, step number one, where you may have a question, is going to be something that looks like this. In this case, your organization affiliation. Our affiliation is not Brooklyn College. It's going to be the City University of New York, CUNY. So if you type in CUNY, that'll be the drop-down list that will come up. If you type in Brooklyn College, it won't know what you're talking about. So you're going to go with the top one, right? Not the bottom one. You're not an independent learner. You're part of the CUNY family. All right, so at the bottom, you're going to agree and affirm, and then press continue. That one was pretty straightforward, wasn't it? So as it turns out, my retentive nature did include some of the minutia as part of this process. That's okay. You could fast forward, any parts that you're not sure. Yes, name, last name. Please, you have to put in your a usable email address. Don't put in a bogus or a bum email address. That's because you are going to eventually need access to this again. So put in an email address that you do have access to. Yep, so this is one of those straightforward ones. Go ahead and answer those questions to the best of your ability. If memory serves, United States of America is going to pop up on that list of country of residence. And I always say no, no, no. Do not contact me for any reason. I think that you can't get some sort of CELT credits or CE credits or something like that by doing this. The problem is that if you click on yes, they're going to ask you to pay for the course, and you shouldn't have to. We're doing the free part of this course. So I always click on no for your credit status. All right, for these, you could pretty much type in whatever it is that you want. For example, look at the employee ID number. I didn't want to put my file number into this, or or my social security or anything like that. I just put 1 2 3 4 5 6, and they usually accept it. A department edu is fine. Whatever the highest, high school. I would put an institutional email address, or a regular email address. It's never told me I can't put one or the other. So if you do want to put your at schools.nyc.gov, you can feel free to go free and feel free to do that. Also, at the very bottom, what is the role in your researcher? I messed up there. I took a screenshot with undergraduate, but they have student researcher at the graduate level. So feel free to pick that. I'll be honest, I don't think that it matters one way or another. But if you wanted to do it that way, that'd be fine. Okay, so this one is important because you gotta take the right course. Uh, Too often, people take the one below it. You see the human subjects refresher course, or some of the other ones. It's got to be take the human subjects basic course. The truth is that the other ones are even longer than this one. This is probably one of the shorter ones. So you're going to click on that one, and please make sure that it is that basic course. And then once again, that centerpiece is going to be for social and behavioral faculty, graduate students. Hey, that's you guys. And postdoctoral scholars. So make sure that you do click on that middle one, so you don't get all kinds of crazy stuff for like biomedical type of stuff, or any of the other ones. So that middle one, please. That should be it. You're going to finalize your registration. And let's take a look at the first module. As you can see at the very, very top in green, your registration has been completed successfully. Yes, awesome. City University of New York, you should see that, because that is your affiliate, and then you're going to click on View Courses. If you scroll down to that independent learner, you've gone off track and you're now lost in the woods. Has to be those institutional courses. There's a little bit of information on this particular screenshot that I'd like to point out to you. Obviously, in red, you have the Start Now, which when you're ready to start the modules. I don't know why they call it that, but that's what it is. The modules. You're going to start there. Make sure, please, that all that information is correct. At the top, City University of New York, the Social Behavior Faculty, and then the basic course. There are 14 modules to complete. We'll talk about them in just a second. I don't want to get into them right here, but there's 14 of them. And once again, it's all within that basic course. When you're ready, go ahead and click Start Now. They will ask you to agree one last time. And if you do, go ahead and click Submit. I couldn't capture all 14 modules in one screenshot, but that's okay, because you're going to be starting with the top there, the Belmont report, and its principles. So as you can see, I have not started it. I didn't do it because it's just a sample. So you're going to click on Start, and as you go through the webinar and the reading and the little quiz at the end of it, as you get your grade, and it has to be an 80%. Has to be an 80%. Most of you are going to get hundreds throughout, but just so you know, it can't be below 80. As you do complete them and you get your score, you'll get a little complete sign, and then you'll go on to the history, and then conflicts, defining, so on and so forth. At the bottom of those modules, those 14, there's also going to be something called a supplemental module. And those you do not have to do. Okay, that's why there's a big X. And it doesn't matter what part of the world you live in. When you see a red X, it means don't do it. Okay? And then finally, this is a quick screenshot of the Belmont report, which is the first module. So this is what you're going to be looking at. This is going to be the first thing that you're looking at as you begin to work on this. Once you've completed all the modules and you have your 80 or above on all those modules, this is what you're going to be looking for, the City Program Certificate. What they're going to do is they're going to send it to you as a PDF attachment, or you can download it. I should say you could download it as a PDF attachment. This is what I need in order to CYA, in order to fulfill your obligation, that your departmental obligation of that human subjects certificate. As you could see, this particular student got pretty much 100 throughout, but some of them he or she didn't quite get there. That's fine too. There is a link. Like there is a way that when you download it, you can get a link, and then you can send me that link. Please don't do it that way. I need you to send me this. I need you to send me this PDF with this document attached to it, to David Perez 11230. Okay, not the link. I need the actual certificate. That way I file it and I have it on record. Okay, let's talk for a second. And if you notice, I've lowered my voice just in case anybody is listening out there. Anyway, if you want to, you can certainly read through all 14 modules. But I will say this, and I'll say it once, and if anybody asks me, I will deny it, even though it's on recording. There are other resources out there on the internet, let's say, through Google, let's say, where you could access information that will help you with this process. So if you can't find that information on Google or on the internets, on all the internets, then you can certainly read through each one of them. But if you choose to go a different route, there are other avenues that will decrease the amount of time that it takes in order to get that completion certificate, that PDF. Once you do get it, though, please, David Perez 11230, and that will fulfill your obligation. So give it some thought, read wisely, hopefully search wisely, and I hope it does kind of work out for you. All right, ladies and gents, last slide for me here. Just a little friendly neighborhood advice. It's gonna suck. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. Like this time, I'm genuine about it. I know it's a pain. I can't tell you how many times, like, the AP will drop an email and be like, you gotta take this webinar. It's like, oh my God, here we go, losing IQ points. So it's got to get done, and it's a Band-Aid. It's gonna hurt no matter what. Just do it. I can't give you a grade without it, so you just kind of got to get it done. If you have a certain level of persistence and you could do it in one sitting, that's great. If you got to do it in a couple sittings, but don't put it off. As bad as it is now, whenever it is that you're listening to, it's going to be worse next week and even worse the week after. So please, let's get this done. I am going to go record the first slide, and I will see you guys in lecture number 7. Moving along here.